are watching the BOP, the BLERD official podcast. We are so excited that you are here with us. Oh, let me introduce my co-host, Hilton George. How are you doing? How is life?
It is hot, and I'm ready for fall to come so I can put on my clothes. I'm tired of laying around looking like I fell out in a heat stroke.
Right.
So I'm down here in my hutch hiding from the heat and enjoying this inner light. But my inner light comes from my screen and my two co-hosts. So I'm so happy to see you guys and seeing you're cool and collected and everything, looking lovely.
Oh, cool is not even, I don't even think I'm cool or collected. I am burning up on fire here in California.
Oh,
Christi Rene, how are you? How is life?
I am here, I am well, and I am enjoying life one breath at a time. So I'm happy. Yes, I'm trying to stay cool. It's not even nowhere near as hot in Texas as it is in California.
I was in Texas.
I swore that I left the hot weather there and came back home.
Let me tell you this. Let me tell you the story, Hilton. Listen to me. Christi Rene has not been in LA since the 90s.
What?
Okay?
All this time.
She has not been in LA since the 90s. She comes for Power Morphicon, which was amazing. We're going to talk about that.
Yes.
It was an amazing convention. I know, Hilton, you got to tell us all about Dragon Con. We got so much to catch up on. But she came to Power Morphicon. She was here for approximately 4 to 5 days. She leaves, and literally that next day, LA caught on fire. We went from the 70s and 80s to 100 plus degrees. It was 112, and I flew to Texas, and it was 88 in Texas.
It
has been a nightmare.
This is Old Testament biblical stuff. I think somebody has got 10,000 Hebrews in slavery building pyramids somewhere and they won't let them go. Let my people go, California. Let the Hebrews go. It ain't worth it.
Something is happening. We are literally on fire. There are fires all up and down the 5 freeway. It is today, I believe it was 108. It was supposed to go down to 100. We were all excited, and it's still 108.
That's crazy. When you get excited over 100 today, it's bad. Yeah. And it's been pleasant hot here in Texas for the most part. I mean, there's been a lot of torrential rain,
right?
We needed to come back, child. It's nice, but we get down in the 70s at night now. So we were before I left and came there and then hit Seattle and all of that. It was still 102 at 8:35 p.m. So I'm glad to see the change. I just want to see real seasons here, and I'm in the North Texas area, so it's
you're looking like a Christmas commercial right there. You got this little cup of hot tea, and it's not a sweater, but it's kind of cozy. And it is totally running contrary to this.
Yes, she's if I'm Sporty Spice, she's Pumpkin Spice.
I'm pumpkin. Let me tell y'all. So I do simmering pots at home. When it was raining, it was in the 70s outside, y'all. It was glorious. And I immediately ran in and was like, you know what? I'm about to pull this pot out. I've got some cinnamon apple essential oil. I've got cinnamon sticks, and I've got cloves. I literally have been doing, it smells like the holidays in here. It smells like fall because, I'm spooky season. I am
she said it smelled like Bed Bath & Beyond before the bankruptcy.
Before bankruptcy.
She got all that on sale, girl.
You better stock up, y'all.
Listen, this is all y'all can go. You can go to Dollar Tree and get you some good spices, some fresh, whatever. So I'm loving it. I'm ready. Okay. I'm ready for, I always got my Michael Myers with me.
I see.
And so this is fall. I am fall.
Well, I wish that California would get the memo, because when I was in Texas a couple days ago, I literally, it was 88, and I told my mom, you got to make menudo. That was the drastic difference. Usually you only make the menudo when it's winter time.
Yeah,
it wasn't even quite winter time, but because it was in the 80s, I felt like we need it. Okay, so there's been a lot going on in the news. There's been a lot going on in this world. A couple of days ago, we saw the Obamas get honored the way they should have been honored.
Yes.
Back when the other crazy was
right. A whole
term just to get like their portraits, the official portraits. And a lot of people, like I was watching the news and they were like, this is huge. I mean, you got to think about it. There's never been a Black man or woman hanging in the White House.
Portraiture hanging.
And you know what? I think it almost was better. I think it was almost better that it happened now because it almost reminded people of the craziness that we went through and we had to endure, but also because of just the relationship that, you know, the Obamas and the Bidens have. And it seems like a really true friendship. And so for them to host this and say, you know what, we don't care that it was supposed to be then, we're going to do it now. Like we will not let it pass by. So kudos to the Obamas. What did you guys think, or how did you feel when you saw it? Because it was quite emotional, and I didn't think I would get emotional.
It's an emotional thing because here in DC, this is all happening up the street. So we bump into these politicians that y'all see on TV at Starbucks and stuff like that. So it's really funny to see them in real time. Like, oh my God, you're a real person. Like at the Gap. Like, what is going on?
For real.
So
that's a small, large city. Like it's small.
Right. Exactly.
Large,
very dense, a lot going on. And, I almost prefer, not even say almost, I prefer for it to have happened now versus the previous administration. I don't think that there's any way that the previous administration would have had the magnanimity, if you will.
Right.
Come on, words.
Come on,
I know, right? I had to pull that one all the way out of my kidney right there. That was
magnanimity.
I knew I had to get it in there. Stuck the landing.
Yeah.
Stuck the
landing.
10. You get a 10.
And the judges.
And the vocabulary award goes too.
Is that somehow, if Donald Trump had tried to do this, he would have screwed it up. He would have tainted it. Just by being him and the people around him,
he couldn't help himself.
And I don't think that it would have done an honor and justice to what the Obamas meant. Yes. And I don't think that the way that they deserve to be honored was within the capability of the previous administration. So I'm fine with it taking this long. And I just think it's emblematic of just how problematic the last 4 years prior to the Biden administration were. And we're finding out more and more and more as we go further and further into all these documents and court filings and stuff, just how out of pocket they all were. And so I'm happy to have this now because you know what? Honor deferred is honor achieved. So I'm happy.
Exactly.
Amen.
Amen. Christi Rene, what were your feelings? Because honey, you were posting immediately.
Immediately. I was live on the scene.
I know, you were like, here I am, Christi Rene, here in DC. Live reactions.
Filming my TV. I do
from the Black
faithfully.
Coalition.
Right. So I'm part of the Black Coalition. Yes. So you got to understand my relationship to I feel like I am in some universe related to the Obamas.
You are. We all are.
Right.
That's my cousin.
Right. I feel
my 23andMe paperwork is.
Yes. Right. We are somehow related.
And as far as their political journey, and how I navigated, getting, I became a deputy to register people to vote, and back in 2008 and in 2012. Good. I went to the 2012 inauguration. I was there. I was in arm's reach. Wow. I have a photo of him saying good morning to me.
You might have been there with me.
I might have been next to each other.
There's an empty seat in the box where they watch the parade, the presidential box where they watch the parade, that had my name on it. And I was so exhausted because they do these things back to back. I'm going back to 2012. So 10 years ago, I was in DC for the sole purpose of going to the inauguration. And so being there, and of course, you're up at 3 a.m. and you're trekking with the people at 4 a.m. I remember at about at about 4:45 a.m., I yell out, "Rachel Maddow!" And she's like, "Hey," because she's walking by on the way to her next spot, to set up or whatever.
She's so like, she's got that excitement that fans have, and I love that about you.
Everything. And
she will yell at everyone.
Everybody. And I'm a star, and I don't let anybody forget it. I have been.
Yes, she lives in both worlds, guys.
I do. I'm the best of the two. So I think back to those moments. I think back to watching the elections. I'm up all night. I host the very first, when they did the ball, I actually at home with my kids and a couple of people came over and we dressed up, baby. We was in gowns and we did our own inaugural ball. I cleared the furniture and we watched until, 2 a.m. or whenever it went off. And I watched coverage faithfully. So I see this culminate into today and I wept. I wept when he walked in the room and just the cheers and the people who are constantly excited to see him. He's just that guy. He's the one. And so I just admire that he had a presidency where even with, Biden, I don't agree with everything everybody does, right. And you can't. But when I look at the core of people, I look at who they are connected to, his partner in life and all things beyond, who is just an epitome of I don't know what to call it, but existence and grace and strength and just beauty. And so I look at that family and they've been allowed to finally go live their lives outside of this massive limelight. But when they are re-welcomed, they hadn't been there since they left. Yeah. And so
I don't blame them.
I don't either. It was just a great full circle moment. To the legacy that he created, and he is now leaving for the people. And he's a bar. He's a bar that we strive to get to where you felt good. Like I felt good about a presidency. And so, and I'm not. And you know what I was reminded today is I'm not going to. First of all, let me just say. She said,
first of all, she on her 10th topic.
I know. Wait, and then I'm gonna pass the mic. But listen, when she said,
"When so black right now,"
I love you. Black. You got to stay with me. I'm on several tracks right
I'm
now.
Listening. I'm going. I'm here. First of
all, when he said when he was thanking the painter who painted Michelle, and he was like, she's. In every way that I see her, you capture how I see her. She's beautiful and her grace, and she's fine. He didn't say fine. She's fine. He said she's fine. Like I was like, Obama, listen, Barack. He just comes with he comes with it. Whenever y'all try to doubt, you can't doubt that he is. He that dude. Like I love him. He is a black
I also want to mention on top of everything that affected Christi in this, I also think this is great timing for the midterms because it's reminding people that hey, there's a core in the Democratic Party that y'all might have forgot about,
right?
That we are a part of, and this legacy of policy and this legacy of governance has roots and it's real. And we could have it again if we are active, and you see what happens when we're not. And it's all being shown and showcased and contrasted in what is political, but an apolitical event.
Yes.
Even the Republicans and Fox News aren't going to find I can't believe that they're doing it. Like, it's not even that, but just showing it and seeing it and reminding you of how good it could be. Like, we was eating at Ruth's Chris, steakhouse, and we just spent 4 years at Golden Corral. And we done forgot. We done forgot how. I don't need a super sharp knife to cut good steak, right? Like, hold up. Then we go back to. Let me remind you what Ruth's Chris tastes like, and then we're like, oh, that's right. I remember.
That was very good. That is like exactly what we went through. Because if you think about this, gosh, we would have these high dignitary events and there'd be McDonald's. Like, who does that? Like, it was such a sham. And now that we know, like, total shit show. And now we know all of the criminals and all that things and all the things that have been happening, and
Karen,
almost everybody is on a list to get indicted. No, we knew, but now it's like it's all kind of having a like. I mean,
the
it's
difference
really
is now.
taking
The difference is now that Republicans are starting to know, like them people that consider themselves independents or swing voters or whatever the hell. That is, even they are kind of like, oh,
it's undeniable.
Classified documents in the sock drawer in Mar-a-Lago. I don't know how to spin that. Like, you know, it's starting to hit home for the people that don't have a home to hit. And that's the difference now. And it's a lot of us have been there since day one, but we're sitting there like, okay, at least the justice system is catching on. And, you know, Steve Bannon's turned himself into the authorities today, you know, and everybody's testifying and all this stuff.
It's the Grim Reaper.
So, yeah. So we're forgetting that when Obama left office, there wasn't no investigations or nothing.
Nothing.
You know, when nobody went to jail.
It was tears.
Nobody got no hearings, no special commissions.
The biggest scandal is he wore a tan suit. Like,
and he joked
she wore a sleeveless dress. Like, that was all. That's all they could pick from. Like, come on. It was so. You're right, Christi. You brought this up. Like, it was such elegance for that 8 years. Like, if you have someone who is so educated, but yet so in touch with just the everyday person, like it's almost like a lot of times when you meet people who are very educated, they can't find that common ground to be. Yeah, they can't find the common ground to the everyday guy who works at the plant, and you know. But Obama, him and his entire everybody was in touch with everyone. He was really like the man of the people, you know. And people forget that he took us out of a deep, dark recession. I mean, he saved this country financially. We were so in the hole. We just had a whole fake war. I mean, it was just awful decisions. We were so like, it was just all bad. And I'm glad. You know what? I'm not, obviously I was unhappy with that person being in office, but I'm so glad because it has honestly uprooted the ugliness that this country has been trying to hide. And we now, it's like their slip is showing. We know, like, people are so crazy. You know, people are so crazy. They think they can act like this man. They think they can do the things that this man does. And I mean, like you said, it's almost a little bit of a reckoning. I'm not going to be satisfied until there are indictments for him, his children, and all of, like, I want it to all come, you know, to pass. So hopefully the people that are working in the state of New York and state of Georgia, and also the big FBI investigation, hopefully it will, you know, I just can't imagine all these other people are getting arrested and nothing happens to them. Oh, please, God. That's a whole show. Like, that is a whole show.
That's a whole other episode and a whole other show. Like, we need a whole different show.
Yeah, I don't even want to go down that path because I already know how we are. And I just,
because Christi be done tore up her whole setup by the time we get to the she be done, damn it.
Let's knock all this shit down.
That's like an eight-part episode, a special edition, the BOP episode of the crimes America has had to endure. I don't know. It's all bad. So anyways, let's talk about something more exciting. We all just came off of a run of Comic-Cons, our favorite thing to do. Christi came with me to LA and was at Power Morphicon, which was phenomenal. You, Hilton, you and Dana were at Dragon Con. I mean, okay, so we'll just briefly talk about this because we do have a show. We are going to talk about House of Dragon.
House of Dragon, guys.
Yes, but so Power Morphicon was amazing. If you don't know what Power Morphicon is, it is the biggest Power Ranger Comic-Con. Everybody comes. At least all try. There was probably at least 50 actors, would you say? There was at least 50 of us there from different seasons. But it's like a family reunion for me. I get to see all my friends, and I get to see like all the new Rangers. Like, I'm really like, I've gotten to really know them this last couple of years, and they are my boos. Like, every single one of them. Like, we cannot get, like, I cannot get enough of the, you know, the Dino Fury, the Dino Fury and the Beast Morphers. I cannot get enough of those guys and girls. it's just amazing. But it's a full-on love fest. Christi got to witness. We were busy. Like the doors would open, we'd be busy. And we'd stay busy until the doors were closed. And that was 3 days straight. And we would just like crawl to food and then crawl to the bed. But we like got the party started at the VIP party. Like we had everybody dancing. Yeah. So, you know, it was just a lot of fun. But Christi, I'll let you talk about it because it was your first Power Morphicon. Yes, and then Hilton, I got to hear all about Dragon Con because that's one of my favorite shows and I wasn't able to go this year. But what was your impression of Power Morphicon, Christi?
Listen, as per usual, you know me, I jump right out and just jump. I jump.
She is the people's champ. Like people love you at my booth. She is like people love her at my booth. Like she's everything.
We're on to something. I'm telling you, we are. I'm definitely, you know, I am, and again, I'm always honest. Like I was always proud of you for that journey. I wasn't a part of it, but I, from afar, could see and be like, that's my girl. That right here. That right here.
Right.
She the yellow one. But you know, now I get
you're like immersed.
Yeah, now I'm like deep in it and I'm learning a whole lot because the funniest thing is, and this is at any show, when they come up and go, and I was really interested in the and they'll try to tell me like, girl, you got to point to that. Point it out. I don't know the names. I don't know none of them. I know that's Aisha right there.
That's all she knows. That's as far as it goes.
And again, it's just such a great experience, and the people are fantastic. And Power Morphicon had a little bit of a different energy from the other cons because the other cons have so much of everything else that is in any multiverse. And so this is so focused, and it was beautiful. I had my crying moments, child. I adopted 2 kids, 2 other people's babies.
The fans come up and tell the stories. They come up and tell they're like, oh my God, you changed my life story. And Christi's like crying in the corner. Like, and next thing I know, she's exchanged numbers and she's hugging them every day.
I'm still talking to one of these kids like he is one of my, he's adult, but it's just like, oh my God, he reminds me of my son. And we just kind of took to each other. And that was his first Comic-Con. So he was kind of coming out and experiencing this for the first time, and I'm like, well, I'm still such a newbie, so I can relate to that. And I'm grown, and so, but I still have the excitement of being, you know, if I were 12 going to one of these for the first time, and it's just and it never gets old. We did that back to back, like
every day was a new adventure
with me. I'm not the one that it don't fizzle out. Like I'm just oh my God. So I can't wait. And
I will say this: there were a lot of Crush fans, and so when I said, "You guys remember Crush?" and they were like, "Yeah," and I go, that's her. We were in Crush. They were like, "Ah!" So
it's a whole other.
It was like they were like, because they know about Crush, like the real, true Karan Ashley fans know that I was in Crush way before Power Rangers, and so I love seeing their faces when they saw her, and it was really cool.
And then it goes from a PowerCon to, I mean, a RangerCon to a CrushCon.
A CrushCon.
That's it. Next thing, CrushCon. Put that out.
Yes. Okay, so Hilton, we have got to hear about Dragon Con. Oh man, that's like 4 days of just.
Oh Lord.
Oh, it is everything. And you think MomoCon is big? Dragon Con is like
Dragon Con
double, triple,
big like a dragon.
Huge.
Big like the House of Dragon.
and I gotta tell you that you know, I missed both of these joints. I didn't go to Dragon Con. I didn't want to break you up because you said it. I didn't go.
I thought you were there. You were like literally posting.
I was complaining. That's different.
Oh, you were complaining.
I was bitching because because this is what happened.
There was like a bad situation at the Hilton, wasn't it?
This is what happens.
Well, I'm glad
you get into the lead up of a con, you know, and everybody's kind of like, you know, all I'm seeing is everybody in my circle is like, oh, you know, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Oh, just fall through. Anybody? I'm just checking off people that ain't going. And these are people who you might room with, or people you might do stuff with, and all this stuff. And you know, my homeboy who lives down there that I would usually stay with for cons in Atlanta, he was not in town, and it was just like also the airlines was just poised to fuck up. They was like, we got another holiday for you. Y'all want to fly somewhere? all right, and I'm sitting there like, okay, none of the elements are coming together, and the airlines and the people are not that I know are not going.
Right.
Then 3 days before the con, everybody's posting I'm about to go to Dragon Con post. I'm like, yo, like you wasn't about to go. Like everybody who was not going all of a sudden was going. And then everybody was there but me. And that's what happened to Dragon Con. So I'm sitting there, I'm keyboard worrying, like, F all y'all, how y'all gonna go and not call nobody? Oh, you just gonna hop in a car and drive past my house and go to Dragon Con? Okay, all of that. So I'm lighting people up. They're not my friends. I
would have told you. I would have said, Hilton.
I was trying to go. I was thinking about going, and I was like, you know what? I said, if the elements, if the stars aren't in alignment, it's a big investment of time, and obviously money. Because look, if you're not a legacy, know this: if you're not a legacy, you paying $500 a night for a hotel room.
Yeah,
and that's a lease.
Yeah.
That ain't a lease. I might as well buy a condo.
Yeah,
and just sign. I just might as well fill out the paperwork.
It's a $2,000 or $3,000 easy just to get there trip.
That's
not even buying anything. Like that's not even spending any money. Yeah, that's not.
They put a Dragon Con tax on. There's a fee for Dragon Con at some of the restaurants. Like it's like you're like yo, I'm paying more just because of the weekend I'm here.
Oh, like, they upcharging. Yeah.
They upcharge you, right? So I didn't have no ducks in a row for that. And if I tried to pull it together, it would have been, I'd probably still be there because it would have messed up my flight. And I'd be like, I'm just going to live in Atlanta right now.
Yeah.
However, from what I saw and all the people I know who were there and living vicariously through them, this was an amazing convention. So many people who are taking their first venture back out into the con space did so at some form at Dragon Con. A lot of parties. It's a big party convention. And so much of the Atlanta area and so many people travel. And, I think we're at this point where you can truly say from COVID, we are kind of back. And yes, there's some people who are wearing masks, and yes, there's going to be different rules in different cons in different states, but we're out of our hobbit holes, and we're coming back into the spaces and reconnecting with one another. So I'll definitely be at the next Dragon Con.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about that. We will all be there. We done already signed up for it. We're doing it. Yeah. But this one I was not at, and it hurt my heart. And I don't worry. I'm not mad no more. I done cussed everybody out that deserves to be cussed out. Everybody got their sternly written email.
I just kept seeing all these pictures of like a hotel floor that was full of water, and like people were like, it was all bad. Like they had a bad a
horror movie at the Hilton. The 8th floor completely flooded. There's pictures of just like not like damp carpet, but like
water.
A sheen of water, like a puddle in the whole hall. And I'm just like, who fucked up and left their shower on?
It was somebody did something crazy.
Somebody did something crazy. And you know what? I'm going to say this because it's weird, because everybody on that floor was like, oh yeah, the Hilton put me in another room. And the first thing in my mind is like, what the hell is the Hilton doing with open rooms during Dragon Con?
Right.
Like y'all done sold out, all your websites sold out, but you got
math wasn't mapping.
Well, but also think about when we watching all of these airline stories and how everybody's flight. I fear that every single time I travel now, and it's like it doesn't happen to me. Oh Lord, knock on some wood, child, around here,
right?
So Micah, whatever you got.
It's been a good year.
But think about that: people who have missed those flights, then of course hotel rooms will open up at the last second. But
that's
still,
it's not that many though. Like that was like a whole lot of people. Because if you think it's 8, then 7 got just everybody. That's like 2.
Yeah, that's what I wrote on the post. I say the really screwed up people are the people underneath. Them floors ain't waterproof. It's raining in the next floor down, and then the next floor down, and the next floor down.
We just have to hope it wasn't toilet water. Let's just hope it was bath water. Yeah, exactly.
Even that sometimes. Before they got in it.
Yes, there's been some other excitement. As you guys know, we are fans of television shows. I personally loved Game of Thrones. Like I came on late. Like I literally came on to Game of Thrones probably like, I think they were at least 4 seasons in by the time I got on. And I but once I got on, I mean, I could not stop watching it. And I
It was
watched
crack.
the whole, it was crack. And it was, and I was excited. I was mad. I was happy. I was sad. So when it all came down that House of Dragon was going to be premiering on HBO and it was going to be a prequel, I was so excited because the reality is there's just so many characters, there's so many stories that this prequel has every right to happen because we knew how like the stories, I mean, you knew kind of some stories of how they got there, but we needed to just see it. We needed to see all of it. And I mean, it did not disappoint. I think we've gotten 3 episodes so far. Man, but it also, like, of course, as always, the racism comes out of the woodwork and they're mad because there is a black Targaryen. I mean, it is like crazy, but I am so glad this show is back and we've got some amazing characters. And I know Christi had never watched Game of Thrones. So House of Dragon is her first like experience and her first like just being able to kind of
so you're watching this and you have no context of
no context.
Wow.
Yes, not
this
one
is gonna be
episode.
An interesting take because like everything I see on the screen has like this invisible backdrop of the 8 seasons of Game of Thrones that I watch. Like, okay, that's going to be King's Landing, and that's going to be this and this, and as a standalone experience, I can't imagine what that's like. I mean, so it's going to be an interesting take.
It's going to be definitely an interesting take. So, okay, so Hilton, we got our first taste. I mean, the first episode alone, I mean, it rocked me to the core. They've got some really great actors and actresses that are on here. Millie Alcock, she is like, I mean, she is just
I love her.
Stealing. She's amazing. Matt Smith, I know him from The Crown. I know him from all these other shows. Oh, Doctor Who. He is so good in this. Gosh, what is the other actress? Let me see. I'm trying to read everybody. So there's just a lot of great people. So what is your take? What was because you were a true fan like me of Game of Thrones. When you finally got to see this, what did you think? Did they live up to the hype?
I think that they have done better than living up to the hype because they are existing in a space that wasn't written. Like this is a history that was referred to in the books, but there's no book that they're drawing from. So we're seeing the writers and Morrow, the actual author of the books, who participated in some of this, in crafting the story and fleshing it out. And not for nothing, but you're seeing an evolution in the CGI that has allowed for more to happen with the dragons and the fight scenes and the scenery and the backgrounds and the sound is just amazing. And they're still telling a great story and they're fleshing out amazing, distinctive characters who have their own sets of very clearly discernible flaws and histories that are not explicitly written, but we can sense, okay, there's something going on between these two that hasn't played out yet on the screen, but everybody else on screen knows it. And you're seeing these amazing flawed characters. And that's what I always loved about Game of Thrones as the original series, is that you would have evil characters who would exhibit nobility, and you would have kindness and sympathy from the most wretched and hated character. And you're like, what are you doing? Why are you doing a good thing when you're supposed to be somebody who is only capable of evil and hatred and all this? And at the same time, you're also seeing people who are good, who are doing, mean and horrible things in the same, show. So Daemon Targaryen, Matt Smith's character, I think he's stealing the series just now. And if you haven't seen episode 3, this one that just passed, I want to make 2 notes. One,
he let people know.
I watched it twice. And the second time I watched it, I literally yelled, Leroy Jenkins! And he went out and he pulled a full-blown Leroy Jenkins, and everybody's like, "Oh shit, we got to follow him," and he ended up, winning. But this character stole that episode, did not speak one line, the entire episode. Didn't say utter a syllable, and told the story, the whole half of the episode that was his, of the pettiness and the resentment and the pride and the egomania that shapes him, along with the inspiration that he created through his strength and his decisiveness, in contrast to his brother, the king. I mean, so he's coming from this place of like, you know, weakness and all this, but he also is like, I love my brother, but I need to be the one to show that I'm capable of leading this victory. And so
I cannot let my brother take over. He can't have one ounce of this win.
Not one bit of it. And the fact that the other Targaryen leader, I can't remember the brother's name, who was partnering with him with his fleet, was like Corlys.
Is it Corlys? I can't remember. Corlys or something. I don't know how they say it. Yeah, Corlys.
Was so on board with this and saying, you and I have to work together to earn our space in the leadership and the power structure that's in front of us, because it's not going to be given to us. And the fact that those two have come together and have only been brought together by the weakness and indecisiveness and the poor decision making of our current king, just so many layers of everything that was happening on the screen at that time. You know, you see the guy in the beginning of the episode who's crucified, being eaten by crabs. It's pretty horrible. Who sees the prince coming? He's just like, you know, he's like, oh, the prince, he's come to say, that's right, destroy them, blah, 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 blah. And the first thing he's like, he's here to save me. And he's like, no, this has nothing to do with you. He like literally squishes him with the dragon. And I just think that this is the turning point. Every one of these shows, and Christi, if you ever get the opportunity to go back and watch this, you'll see this.
I encourage you to.
The world building is a slow burn. In the first series, the first 3 to 5 episodes is just them going around introducing places and people, and there's not a lot going on. But once the show starts, like there's a big watercrest MacGuffin that is introduced, and then the show just takes off like a roller coaster. And I think this is the episode where the roller coaster took off for this show. And I don't think it's going to hit the brakes until we get to the end of this season. And I am super excited. So I'm pleased as punch.
Another scene that just got where Matt Smith just stole my heart was where I'm going to come to you. I
want to say whether or not I like it, because I want to agree with y'all.
Let me just say this really quick because I love the lead actress. Her name is she's Amelia Alcock. And she plays how do you say her name? Rhaenyra. Yeah, she plays her. She is the Targaryen that basically her dad, who was the king, he, to spite, the council, despite his brother, he names her the heir. And she is the firstborn. And if she's able to make it, she would be the first woman to sit on the Iron Throne, and God forbid a woman sit on the Iron Throne. And that's what causes all these problems, and people are killing each other and going to war and trying to prove themselves and prove their strength so that they can show I'm more worthy than she would ever be. I love the scene where he steals the egg for his child that he's going to have with his mistress, and he's like,
this is in episode 2.
Yeah, episode 2.
Right.
And he, of course, they hit, the king sends his troops, sends his guys and say, get that egg back. He doesn't deserve that dragon's egg. And of course, he's not going to do it. He basically spits on them and it's like, oh, if you want it, we're going to have to, you have to kill me for it. And here she comes on her dragon. And she lands there. And of course, you see this dynamic where he knows she stands in the way of everything he wants, which is to be king one day. And she looks him in the eye and says, well, if you want to, I'm the one who's standing in your way, then kill me. And he, of course, loves his niece. He has a great relationship with her and he doesn't want to have to do that, and he just tosses the egg to her. But it's just all like you said, he's one of those
Khaleesi vibes.
Total Khaleesi vibes.
I was like, ooh, did she just sneak up on a dragon? Like what?
Yes,
let me handle this.
Yes, and she's totally like the Khaleesi before Khaleesi, because this is 100 years before Khaleesi had ever even taken a breath.
200.
200 years, yeah. So Christi, I encourage you to watch Game of Thrones, because man, there's so many parallels and so many references, and like he said, Game of Thrones references this stuff, but for us to actually see it and get the whole like story is just amazing. So now you are officially new to this fandom, new to this show. I need to know how you felt about it. How was your first take of House of Dragon?
Well, first I'm gonna cuss y'all out later, because next time, ask me if I even like it at all.
Well, do you like it?
Well, I'm now, because listen, y'all touched on such great points. I actually am shocked at myself, but I love this show. I love where it's going.
Why are you shocked?
And because
she didn't want to like it. She didn't want to like it.
Well, here's the thing. Let me say this. In it 10 years, it's 10 seasons or whatever.
Yeah.
That's
a long time. That's a long. Game of Thrones was long.
So I'm gonna tell y'all right now, I probably would never watch Game of Thrones, but I now just have but let me say this for the people who, we talk about this every now and then, like you can watch certain things and not have to go back and watch.
Yeah, it stands
12
alone.
other
It stands
things.
alone. Yeah.
It is a standalone, even when the references are made. If you need to, it's all Googleable. But I actually
your $10 word. I saw that.
I actually was able
go on vocabulary. Go word.
I be making it up. But I was actually able to follow along. And here's the thing: I only had one beef in the first episode. I just needed to get past, like, I don't need to see people or even hear, let alone having sex. That's the only thing, because they never show you.
You're gonna get a lot of sex. You're gonna get a lot of sex in this series.
And here's the thing:
they doing it over there on King's Landing.
I never understand.
That's why they call it that.
For good drama, I never understand, or anything, I never understand how that really fits into the narrative. And I'm grown. I done had sex and had kids. I get it. I just don't want to see it. So, and again, I'm waiting on the script. I'm waiting on these character developments. Like, that's the part. But I understand referencing certain things. I got past that because I noticed in the next 2 episodes, there's not a drop of it. And that's when, to me, I was really invested. So that's my only take.
Well, just brace yourself, because
I'm sure.
Well,
I'm hoping that it may really build off of. Let me just talk about some of the characters, though. I really, really love. I hope that they're able to me, this is how I find strength in when you really developed characters, you've developed scripting, you've developed the cinematography of it all is just freaking phenomenal.
It's whole world, right?
Y'all talk about when Rhaenyra shows up on her dragon in episode 2, baby, when the clouds, the fog in the moat, and it rolls. I live for those kinds of moments, and that whole exchange. I love their dynamic, Daemon and Rhaenyra. I also appreciate, this is a strange thing, because usually, I just got a little excited. This is, we have bloopers and everything right in the moment. So
obviously,
I actually got excited to see a king that's actually a good person. From what I'm gathering, all 3 episodes, I feel like he's a king with compassion. He has this heart for doing the right thing. He's not like power hungry. He will make his point. But the fact that he did send the fleet to, for Daemon's sake, and for Corlys's sake, and just because he understood the greater threat, if the crab people take over, what are they, crab eaters? So whatever it is.
Yeah.
If that whole spot is taken over, he understands the greater threat, right? And so he's doing it for the right reasons. And again, Daemon is crazy. And Hilton, you are absolutely right. When he it was almost like he has to do 10 more horrible things because he had that one moment of heart that other people got to witness, because they only know him one way. They don't care if he's got a niece, if he's got 10 wives and kids and all of that.
Right.
He's trash to them, right? And so when they show up on that bridge in episode 2, and then that whole exchange, and it's almost like Rhaenyra, it's almost kind of it makes me nervous for her some more, because it's another layer of harshness now that he has to compensate or overcompensate for, because he's allowed, she has forced other people to see him vulnerable when it comes to her. And I mean, he's not going to be that vulnerable when it comes to his wives or any other, probably any kids that he has, but there's something about her. And just, and again, in that third episode, Lord have mercy, when he ran in and I didn't know what the hell, who was dragging who out of the cave. And when it was shown, I mean, I think I literally yelled.
And he had
like
cut off
almost,
his torso.
I was so gross. It was
dragging the body on.
It was, first of all, but even in the first episode, so my son kind of clued me in. He was like, "Ooh, that first episode is hard to watch," because my kids know me. They know me. They know I don't be for the foolishness, right?
Yeah.
And so I said, well, why? And he was like, well, because it's kind of gross. And so I was like, oh, okay. So it wasn't
they keep it part. Real though. Like it's when they cut the baby out. Yeah.
Well, and when they castrated the man, it was a whole penis sitting on the block. Yeah. I was like, I said, oh, that's what that was.
But this is the thing. Like, these are things that happened back in those times. So it's like, they were like, they literally were brutal. Like, if you think about, you read books or you read about history, you hear about these brutal deaths and these brutal, like, I mean, we talk about it on this show. We've always been our own worst enemies. The humans,
we're the worst,
are the monsters. And like, we always, like, basically at the very beginning of this series, the king is talking and he's saying, we've got everything. We've got all the dragons. We have all the power. The only way that we won't keep this is if we turn against each other. And you immediately see how they just can't even hold it together, and how there isn't enough power. There isn't enough, they can't share it. There isn't, like, everybody wants something. Everyone has an agenda. Yeah. I mean, the man just had to decide, do I keep my child or do I cut my wife open? And, of course, he had to have an heir, a male heir. And so, and had to do the unthinkable. And within minutes, they're like, his hand is like telling his daughter, go in there and wear one of your mother's dress and go talk to him. Like, they're already setting him up. Things. Yeah, but that's how they show.
This is why I kind of chuckle to myself when people who haven't watched Game of Thrones look at Game of Thrones as this big mountain to climb, and it's like a homework assignment. It's like your doctoral dissertation. Everybody knows somebody that's been ADD for like 15 years. Like, will you just do this damn paper so you can get your full doctorate and get out my face? Like, it's this.
I'm a plagiarizer.
Everything
you're talking
love
to the person
about
who needs to do her paper.
This 3 episodes is what you would love about that series, and it is extrapolating that even the harshness and the grossness. Because trust me, this is not anywhere close to what some of the stuff you see in the Game of Thrones.
Thrones, this is nothing. This is like child's play. This is
it absolutely
kindergarten.
Is.
Kindergarten.
But I know, at some point we're gonna have a gap of time where you are going to be sitting there with your HBO Max and you're going to go, you know what, let me just, while ain't nobody looking, I'm just going to hit play this episode. And then out of nowhere, Karen, guess what's going to happen? We're going to be on a whole other subject. We're going to be on a whole other subject on another show talking about something this spring. And then Christi's going to be like, listen, hold up. I got something to say before we start the episode. I just watched the first 5 episodes. I binged the first 5 episodes of Game of Thrones. And Lord, why didn't y'all tell me? And oh my Lord Jesus. And we're going to be like, I'm
going to jump in the thread. I'm going to jump in our thread.
I mean, it seriously is like, I mean, he's making every point. This is child's play. And that's why I said, just prepare yourself, because there's going to be some brutal things that no one is safe. That's also the other thing. They don't care if you are the main character. You will be the first one to die at the season finale of episode.
Listen,
I'm telling you, I
stopped liking people. I was like, I'm not even going to have no, because if I say it, they head be on the pike the next episode. Like, wait, that's a major character. You can't just kill him. Like, no, somebody's gonna swoop in and save him. Because damn, all right.
Oh dang, he's dead.
He did. He dead.
He can't come back from that.
He's so dead. He dead.
He is dead. And the other thing they do on this show that this made me a true fan was that they make you hate people beyond what you thought you could hate people. Like, you go, oh, this guy is terrible. And then the next thing you know, he's raping somebody and he's brutally murdering people in his village. And he's still like, nobody can stop this terrible head monster. Like, it's like, I hated so many people in Game of Thrones. Like, it was like there was never a death that could have been good enough for them. When they did finally die, it was never good enough. And the fans would like turn on the show and be like, that's not good enough. They should have died a more day. It should have been worse. Like we just, you know, it's like you will love characters so much and you will hate characters so much. Like,
and they will, and that'll switch. You'll have some people that you hate who did some horrible stuff in season 1 and 2 who end up being heroic in season 3. Like, wait a minute, like you murdered kids. Like, what are you doing? Like, how
they
could you
see the light?
Right. Yeah. You question your own like sanity. Like,
you question.
Okay? Because now I'm rooting for this horrible piece of trash. Like, yeah, that's crazy. Because that's how I felt. Listen, that's how I felt in episode 2, looking at Damon and his niece on the bridge. I couldn't get a name out. I was about to butcher that name.
Yeah, I'm still learning the names, and they're all weird. It's weird pronunciations. Yeah,
it's Rhaenyra. I just call her a V name. Anyway, that was a moment for me where I was like, I just saw him do the absolute fool in episode. And leading up to like, what are we doing? Yeah. And I second guessed my emotions or thoughts about him. And then, of course, and again, I think I'm a little on the fence still, even after episode.
That's okay.
3.
That's okay.
I'm a little on the fence.
That's right where they want you.
Yeah, that's right where they want you.
That's where they want you.
They want you on the edge. You think this person's good, and then they do something horrible, and you're like, oh, that's a bad guy. And then
the next
somebody
thing
you thought was bad is doing something good.
I know,
and
that's
you're agreeing and disagreeing.
It's probably going to upset me at some point.
And then you wake up and it's been 10 years and you've been watching the same show. You've waited for the next season to come out for 2 years. And you're like, when is it coming? Karen, you're like a crackhead.
Karen, when she gets, and I'm predicting you're going to watch it. It may not be tomorrow, but you're going to watch it. But some of the revelations that ultimately went nowhere, and that's a whole other discussion, a whole other show. But some of those revelations that happened between some of the characters, like what their lineages and what the stories were, was so unbelievably well written. I've never gotten up out of my chair and run around a room when they, you know, the child's birth name was this. Oh Lord. Like, oh, get on the phone, call your mama. Tell me you're watching. Tell me you're watching. Oh, you're like, it's that crazy.
It's like almost like a subgroup of conversation.
Everybody's like, I'll tell you.
We don't know it. We're in a cult and we don't know it.
I saw it
when it was going on
out on social media. Like,
and the people who were out, we were not doing a good job getting them in. Like, if you missed like the first 2 seasons and then you walked in on a conversation about Game of Thrones and you was like, I haven't watched an episode. It was like, you know, we were like, interloper, like what is wrong with you? Like, and so I understand how the people who didn't catch on the train are like, you know, forget y'all, you know, you and your stinking show from 2010. I don't care about y'all. Like, I totally understand because we were terrible gatekeepers. But this show, I think, is doing what people didn't think could be done.
Right.
In that it has captured all of the imagination and the atmosphere, the texture of what made that show successful, and it is bringing into a new season. And what's really cool is being 200 years in the past, they're never going to catch up with the old show. Like, they could run 10 seasons of House of the Dragon and not run into or bump into any old characters in young form. And so they've got so much room to tell new stories and keep writing and keep this ball rolling, that the success of the show means that, you know what, we might be 10 years from now talking about, House of the Dragon, you know, my AARP, give me a discount on HBO Go. I got it on my skin phone. Technology in 10 years. I'm watching it on my glasses right now.
Oh, man.
So it's going to be around for a while.
Listen, for those of you out there that, watch the BOP and just love the, all our crazy takes, I am here to tell you, you can pick this show up and watch it, whether or not you go back. Now, I am probably going to go back, but I can't. I think for me, I've got it's timing. So I have to be like, I need this season to run out. And then, because I'm waiting now every week because it's really good. So I need the season to run out. And then in the downtime, I will, I think I'll go back. I mean, look at me with The Handmaid's Tale. Like, I came in 3 years late, 3 seasons late.
Wow.
And now I'm counting the minutes to next week. Because
Hulu's scared of Christy.
Listen,
Hulu, like, we got to get it together. Christy, watch it.
It goes down.
Me and Stranger Things. Like, literally, I'm like,
I
oh my gosh, I need my Stranger Things. Like, it's,
I think I was only a season late to Stranger Things, and then I was like, I'm there.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to give you a nugget real quick.
I came in season 2. Yeah.
I'm going to give you a nugget real quick, and this isn't a spoiler, but it's something I know that you don't know, which is it's just fascinating to just watch as it plays out on
Give
screen.
her a nugget. Give her a good one.
Do you know that dragon riders are immune to fire?
I do know that. You want to
You
know
knew that?
how I know
How
that?
did you know? How did you know
How
that?
did you know that?
Talk to me.
Well, first of all, you have to understand, you talking to a Disney, Pixar, Lord of the Rings, crazy fan, diehard, stupid. So this was like of course, I know How to Train Your Dragon. I know that in well, they didn't have dragon
How
riders.
to Train Your Dragon.
I'm just listen. So I'm saying I do have an idea that they are protected. First of all, if you ride in the dragon must want you on the dragon. So they're not going to
because only certain people can do that.
Yeah, not every Targaryen can ride a dragon.
Not every Targaryen can do it.
So if you're on a dragon, that dragon.
So that really established her when she showed up on that dragon, like she's one of the chosen ones.
Right. Well, in episode 1, she was on her dragon, so we knew. But
from the jump,
and the idea that you saw her at the catacombs, if you will, just kind of holding her hand like out over the fire and just kind of just doing that, it just kind of reminded you like, oh yeah, by the way, they can't burn. If you're a dragon rider, you can't burn. And it's a big part of the old series that we discovered. And in real time, it was like, oh my God. But to see that is something that they've carried on and it's playing out is really interesting.
You did just open my eyes. I don't want you to feel like that was a total bust. You did open my eyes to that because
you did get a nugget.
I know it is. And here's the real nugget is that I did not correlate that to that moment that she has her hand over the fire. So it's very good.
Yeah.
I don't think I thought, some people just hold their hand because they're crazy. And so, now it makes sense.
She thought she was special.
They
all crazy.
They all
Targaryens,
crazy. Like they've got a history of going mad.
They go crazy.
Okay.
And boy, when you see it in Game of Thrones, when it happened, you're like, oh, you just watch that face turn upside down.
Okay.
That's a whole, I'm not spoiling nothing. Let me shut up.
Listen, I'll be ready for it. Now, I'm going to tell y'all this. What was blowing my hair back in watching this, yes, all of it back. I brought it back. I got a little bang for y'all today.
She said appeal to muffin cap.
Yeah.
So Gary,
it blew her hair back.
Kevin Hart in this place.
Yeah.
Muffin cap.
If Kevin Hart shows up, I'm gonna be mad.
Listen,
if they let Ed Sheeran show up in Game of Thrones. Go ahead.
Here's the part.
I digress.
Two things, and Lord, we're running out of time, but this is a huge topic. But we did talk about it. But I'll say this: another controversial moment, which I'm so glad they did not go down this road. This road ended, and I'm almost not mad about the thing that came to circumvent this thing. But when Corliss offers their freaking daughter,
and she's
the
12.
little bitty black girl, and they're walking together, and the grooming.
Courting her, and she's telling him, she's saying all the things she's supposed to
reciting
say.
the lines, and
and
this is why you were thinking of this king as a good person, because you can see he got the same look on his face that we do. He's like, is this what's I have to do this? Like, you're 12, like.
And the line was, it got me, where he goes, what do you think about it? And she goes, well, my mother said I don't have to bed you till I'm 14. And you're like,
he looks at her like,
I think
it's cringeworthy.
I think he peed on himself a little bit in that moment.
Well,
the actual,
but the reality is that in that time, a king could take a girl that young. It didn't even matter, and no one would question it. They would be honored, and then to see the dad pissed. Like then he's like, okay, now I'm gonna plot against you. I'm gonna go over here with Damon and like team up with him since you don't want to have my daughter. And and it's like come on.
I cringed also. Okay, two things. So while I cringed at the father who then, the whatever his name is, Otto, who offers his daughter, which is Allison, the friend, to Venera.
Well, he sets her up to be right there. Yeah.
While I cringed at that, I thought it's interesting. I could tell that she was a little older than Allison.
She was 18,
who's
supposedly.
15. Yeah, who's Allison? I mean, Venera is 15, I guess, when we open up.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand. I could appreciate that so much more, but I appreciated it like 10 times more when I realized, well, shit, if it wasn't her, it was gonna be the baby. And we gotta go with
the options were slim, right?
And they developed a relationship though. They actually developed something,
Well, I think the hand was scheming,
totally
on that, and I think he understood that this is a king that is actually looking for the connection. He doesn't want to just have this be a mechanical part of his monarchy.
He actually loved his wife.
He actually loved his wife, and despite him not having a process of finding her and marrying her that he would have liked, the fact that he had that is something that he would look for if he had to remarry, which he would.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also this counter argument that now the kingdom is under threat because he did not marry this child, and because he is such a good person, and because he seeks true love. Now the throne is under threat because a major ally, potential ally, is now an enemy and is empowering his brother who's doing all this good. And so it's like, this is how they do you. You're like of these two minds, like, no, I don't want to see this man marry a 12-year-old. But like, I also don't want to see a good king dethroned because,
if he'd have just did it, we wouldn't have any problems. It would have been fine. But it's terrible. Like I'm telling you, they make you question. They make you question
Ace
everything.
Ventura in the sequel where he's got the arrow in both legs and he's like,
there's nothing good.
Listen, that is
escaping the pain.
Hilarious.
Oh,
that is a
no
great
escaping
reference.
The pain. Man,
anytime Jim Carrey can come in the conversation, it is a great.
He's welcome.
He deserves it. Always welcome. Oh my gosh, guys. Well, yes. Go ahead.
The last thing, and I know
you notice she's excited to talk about this. I'm loving every minute of it.
I was going to say this. I know that we're going to always continue this conversation about race in these fantastical worlds. Ooh. And listen, hands down, hand clap all the way around for Whoopi Goldberg, who took to the streets, honey. She was on The View, and she has literally gone so far off on all of the haters that are out there. They're racist. We're not going to call them haters.
It's just racism.
It's racist people who are backlashing two shows, very, kind of similar in theme, I guess.
Yeah.
But very different. And so these two shows, Rings of Power and House of the Dragon. Listen. Yes. Now, one thing I'm gonna say about House of the Dragon, I do want them to get right, is we're gonna need another black person in the room. It's only the one black man, and he got his little babies. All I'm saying is we've had this conversation. That's not true diversity.
There'll be more.
So what y'all mad?
Game of Thrones was very diverse.
You saw that he has a nephew or somebody who was with him on the battlefield is black, and he kind of stepped up like, oh, here's a new character. And then there's two brothers with white hair. He got another role.
There will be
Well, I'm looking for that too.
It's almost one of those things where, like, they always say you can imagine a world with a dragon, but you can't imagine it with a black person. Like, come on.
Houseway.
It's almost ridiculous at this point.
Houseway.
It's almost like
Houseway. I gotta say it in the mic. Houseway.
Since we're talking crazy,
he did the head. It's shocking, right? We're laughing about it, and just think about it. We're laughing about it, like we're making light of it.
It's so wrong. It's comical almost. It's like comical. Y'all are so thirsty and so reachy. It's like, stop it already. But again, shout out to anybody that's out there on these massive platforms that's going to speak out. But again, that's a black woman speaking out, and we need more white advocates, not just allies. Advocacy is a verb, so it's an action word. So y'all keep doing it. That's what we gonna do. And come on, let's get with it. I want to see more.
Boom.
That was my 2 cents, and I'm exhausted.
And a good 2 cents. Thank you. And you know what? That's how we're going to end the show, because that is exactly what we need to do in this world. Guys, it has been a great conversation, a great show. We love you. We mean it. Tune in next week for more of the BOP. You know we're going to keep talking about everything. And until then, bye.
Cabbage Patch it out. Hey.
Tune in every Tuesday for a new episode of The BOP, the BLERD official podcast.